Hey everyone, we're here with Buick and Jerry from Friendship Commanders. You should check them out if you don't know them. They will be at Legalize Lex this year, I think they're playing April 19th, which is Saturday night, with a host of other bands. I think that's the night that is Temple of the Fuzz Witch, Horseburner, uh,
Lo-Pan.
Hashtronaut, what? Lo-Pan, yeah.
That rebreather, our pals. Yep.
Yep. Crop
Yep.
I think she is on Friday night. I don't know. My like there's so many bands and I'm like, oh my God.
It's grown since we were first added quite a bit, but we're so grateful to be playing.
Yeah. So it'll be a great time. Braun, obviously everyone knows and loves Braun. Um, he does such a good job at promoting Legalize. Last year, I don't know what the final number was, but it was packed for the entire event. So I
Super
think
cool.
it'll be a really good time.
Yeah, we can't wait.
Same. Uh, so we were just talking about Mass and the Steve Albini mixes, and I want to ask. I want to say again, I I I love them both,
Thank
right? For very different reasons. And Buick, I love your voice because it has this familiarity to it
Thank you.
that like she reminds me of someone, and it's not the same someone. Like one song is like, oh, this could totally be like a vocal melody from the 80s, and then this is like, oh, she's a fucking awesome hard rockin', like, let's do this.
Bandmate, I've had the thought it's a voice you've known your whole life.
It absolutely is. Like, I'm like, I know it. I I'm so like I'm blown away with that because how often do you get that?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a huge compliment. I so appreciate it. Thank you. It's fun, super fun to sing in this band, and I do it different ways on different projects. But thank you for the kind words.
Rock and roll. So let me ask you guys, obviously, um, new to me. You guys been around a few years. What what was the catalyst for you two getting together, going, you know what, let's do this thing?
Total, like maybe we should record some songs and do like a funny side project because we were both, I have a solo project under my own name, Buick Audra. Jerry was playing in a bunch of different projects. Jerry actually lived in LA when we first made the original demos that would become Friendship Commander songs. And we just like, I had some songs that were heavier than what I was doing in my solo project. And I was like, let's record them and just demo them and see what they feel like. And that stayed that way for the first couple years that we played together. It was kind of just here and there. We'd play when we were in the same city. And then, we made our first record. Our first record is called Dave, our first album, and it was self-recorded, self-produced. And we started to take the project more seriously with that record and started to really tour on that record. But it wasn't until we worked with Steve Albini on our second album, Build, that I feel like that's sort of the spiritual beginning of the band that we are now. Even though that record is different from what we do now, it was really when we started to be like, no, we can do this seriously.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Anything.
Jerry, you were gonna add something.
I just said, yeah, that pretty much hit the nail on the head. We weren't the band officially really started as it is with kind of Garfield our EP, but really Bill.
Yeah.
So
Yes, exactly. That's right.
yeah.
We made an EP. Yeah, recording with Steve was like a real commitment to the project, I think, because it was also recording to tape. We made it up at Electrical Audio, Steve's studio, Studio B, and Steve only worked on analog. And so it was like, for anybody that's ever worked with tape, like that you have to be like very, 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 very well rehearsed because we were also recording live. Like the drums and the guitars were recorded together in real time. We ran them down live. So I feel like
What
that was
a
a big commitment at that point.
Oh, absolutely. And what a cool experience to work with, the legend that is like Steve Albini. And I think in with today, everything is digital. So how many people actually go back and deal with analog and to record that and have to be like on it,
Yeah,
or you're like, oh,
truly. I think we rehearsed daily for 5 weeks before we went up to make that record. And Steve was just incredible to work with. And those mixes, the mixes that you were mentioning, the Steve Albini mixes, those are also analog mixes, which are performed live. So like, he would do a pass of a mix, and then if you wanted changes, he had to start over and perform it live again because he was doing all of that automating with the faders in real time.
And he'd use tape edits to do different sections.
Yeah.
wow. Like, but how is that for you guys? Like recording in that scenario?
Like absolutely dreamy. Steve was my favorite recording engineer like my whole life, and I never thought I would work with him. It sort of came about kind of circuitously that we did end up working with him, and it was it was delightful because Steve had a legacy of being very much an edge lord, and he had been hard on some bands by their own accounts. Who knows what actually went down, but people had been less than thrilled over the years, and those stories loomed large. And so when you're making a big investment creatively, financially, logistically, whatever, you hope that it goes well. But Steve was a mensch. I loved him so much. I grieve his passing so hard. Loved working with him.
Yeah. No, me. It was just not to like oversimplify it, but it was quick and easy,
It was.
which I think he just made the environment very welcoming, and like he wanted to always just be the person that could capture what you were doing without getting in the way at all. And with between tape, digital, whatever, it was quicker than a lot of digital sessions that we've ever done.
Yeah, it's the biggest record we've ever recorded track number wise. It's 13 songs, and we recorded and mixed that record in 6 days. And those vocals were recorded in 6 hours. So yeah, it was like a very efficient, mass. I took weeks to do those vocals, like now I track, but just to AB like those experiences, like Steve's super efficient, really like led the charge, and was like confident in the way that he ran sessions, while also not being like a bull in a china shop. He took notes, and he also ended up co-producing with us, which was additionally surprising because he claimed to not do that, but he absolutely did end up doing that.
Well, that's really cool, and I think it's rare for someone to go in the studio with a band and be like, okay, I just really want to capture what the chemistry you all have essentially on tape.
Yes.
There's so often we're just, hey, do this and you need to do this. Like,
And not to bring it up, but a lot of the negative that you hear about him from people that had a bad time working with him, I think they expected him to basically make their records for him, and that was never anything he ever wanted to do. If you had your shit together, you could make a great record with Steve.
Yeah, he was like a creative documentarian, like a sonic documentarian. Whoever and whatever you were at the time that you came into the studio with him, he was going to accurately capture that for you. So if that was not what you wanted out of the situation, I suppose there was room for disappointment, depending on who you were. For us, we knew who we were in that moment. We knew what we were trying to do. And so it was just like a lot of fun to work. And he was really, really fun and funny. So that helped.
yeah, that's cool. It sounds like you guys had a really good experience, but you also probably went in with different expectations than those that were disappointed with the result of working with them.
I think so. Yeah.
It's funny how the expectation management, it matters so much to every experience that we have.
And just planning, man. You have a plan. Be ready.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Be
I
ready.
suck then. I have no plan ever. Oh,
Seems like a good time.
yeah.
Recording to tape, 2-inch tape, prepare.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to, like if not, it's going to be a really rocky session.
I think so. Yeah. No, we loved working with Steve, and yeah, I thought we would do it again. Of course, his passing was like very shocking and immediate. But I'm so glad we did the record we did, and it's a very singular record in our catalog for sure. There's nothing else like it that sounds like it or that even sort of feels like it energetically or musically. So,
Right.
it captured that moment in time of who we were and
Yeah.
what I was writing about and how we were playing. I was like a different guitar player back then.
It's, that's cool. And it's so cool that you were able to capture that because you're right. Like, obviously, I haven't listened to everything yet. Uh, but that is very different than what Mass sounds like.
Yes. There were like there were 5 years between those two records being made. We tracked Bill with Steve at the very end of 2017 and put it out in 2018. And then thought we would make our next we made an EP that came out in 2020. We thought we were going to tour on that all year. And then of course we did not tour on that all year.
Yeah.
Over the course of the pandemic, wrote and recorded and released some other singles that later came out as like a sort of compiled EP in 2022. And so, we were, as everybody else, we were slowed down by the pandemic. So we didn't make another full length record until Mass with
Yeah,
Baloo.
to me,
Salem.
the singles in the EP are kind of connective tissue between the two.
They are.
Though Hold On to Yourself, which has Enemy I Know on it, it is a pretty stark departure from Bill's even then.
Yeah.
Mass is a departure from there, and I can't say exactly why, but it is. It's just, whatever has been written, what she's written.
Yeah. Mass was a real departure for me because there are no political songs on that collection at all. And I had been writing more sort of social commentary, sociology based political work certainly through Bill, some through Hold On to Yourself and the singles that followed that became a compilation called Release the Rest. And Mass is an entirely personal record. So sonically, it sits in a different space because we made it with Baloo, and Baloo has his own markings. And also, we were just playing and presenting our work a certain way. But it is also an entirely personal body of work. So I think that makes it sit differently in the catalog.
I could totally see that. Do you feel like people connect differently with Mass than other things you all have released?
Yes, I think Mass is certainly the most connection I think we've received news of, like the body of work that people have connected with the most. Although Hold On to Yourself, which was the EP that came out in 2020, there's a song on there, as Jerry mentioned, called The Enemy I Know. And I feel like that song is like cousins with Mass. Like it's also a very personal song. And I feel like the people that love that song tend to also like Mass very much. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I could totally see that. I think when people, how do I say this? I'm trying to be smart here, so bear with me. Uh, I think when artists release, those personal songs or personal albums, the fan base, especially when they're used to like maybe politically charged songs, they go, oh, it's almost like a wake up call. Like, hold on, there's something more here than stop this bullshit that's going on, right? Like, and oh my God, they almost, I feel like they almost always grab onto it and just want to like keep you right in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That work belongs to the listeners very differently than the other stuff that we've ever recorded does. And I'm glad. I mean, it was, Mass is a really weird record for me. It's about a time when I lived in Massachusetts, and I wrote it after my friend Mark Orleans killed himself, and just like looked back at the time that he and I both lived in Boston. And I loved the record. I wrote it really quickly, like in a handful of weeks, and we recorded it right after I wrote it, like 10 days after I
Yeah.
finished writing it, I think. So I loved it, and we both loved it, and we really believed in it, but you never know if something that's sort of that niche conceptually is going to like make sense to other people, but it seems to have, or the energy connects or something. You don't really know why people connect with anything.
You're absolutely right. Like you don't know it. I think sometimes it's really random with fans on things that they connect with. I mean, I know when I talk to bands, there are songs where I'm like really drawn to, and they're like, I don't know why, but like cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like
Like,
an energy contained or something that happens there that gets translated. So even if it's not the sort of real fleshed out literal thing that you've written about, it something else crosses over.
for sure. Uh, so props to you guys for constantly challenging yourselves to do something new,
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
know? We've already got AC/DC, you know what I mean?
I'll add
They
to
did
that.
it.
I'll add to that. Buick writes all the songs in the band. It wasn't always that way, but we co-wrote a couple things together, and it became very clear that her voice as a songwriter is really the band, and it's kind of muddying the works in any way doesn't work. It doesn't help us out. So really, she just writes from whatever's happening, and that's what the records end up being.
Yeah.
And there's essentially like her solo work and the band work, and that's really the only dividing line. And so every record just kind of naturally has its own spot. And that's been really fun for me, especially because she'll bring a song and I'll make arrangement ideas or like change a section around, but
Yeah, we arrange everything together.
but they always show up fully fleshed, ready to go, and it just you kind of like figure out where the record's gonna land from there, and it to me it's gotten just even more and more focused, and the direction's been like you can kind of see it as it's gone and it makes sense, but again our next record is very different. I think there's connective tissue there too, but
To mass.
yeah.
Yeah. And we also made it with Baloo, so that puts it sort of in the same universe, at least, sonically. But, I tend to write in like bursts. So they end up being concept records because I get really hung up on like a certain set of like themes and ideas and then write the hell out of them until I'm like sort of through with it. And it's like not a pile of knots for me to untie, if that makes any sense.
I think it absolutely does. It's almost like, working through like whatever's going on in your head, you're focused and you're like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not that there's anything wrong with it when a band does this, but I feel like a lot of bands or a lot of people will just be like, all right, I have to write this kind of song because I'm this kind of band. How can I get a riff like this together or something? And people write that way, I feel like, in compartmentalized styles with riffs and chord changes or concepts, but songs really do just appear, and then in 10 minutes they're there with Buick, which is weird.
Weird.
Yeah. And even ones that she stews on for a long time, that they still just end up sort of coming out that way. It's all just there eventually. So
It's like taking a psychic poop. Like, oh, all right, I'm better.
It's actually like a fever. That's what it feels like. I go into like song sort of fevers. Like there's a song on Mass called Still Life, which is the first song of the second side. And it's, where Jerry's playing the double pedal through the whole song and we're playing in six or something. And I, as an experiment, when I was writing Mass, I set a bunch of my guitars up in different tunings, and one of the tunings is F F C C C F, and I just wanted to try the different tunings so that I would get out of like melodic ruts that I can find myself in as a writer. It's just good to have your ear be challenged by different intervals and different sort of like chord formations. So I got the guitar set up in that riff and I was making food in the kitchen, and I came back in and I started writing Still Life, and that food, I almost like the fire department almost had to come. I completely abandoned what was happening in the kitchen because I just went into like, I just heard it, and wrote it, and then was like, oh, there's like smoke and the fire alarm's going off, I just, so it takes over, and I don't remember even knowing what that song was about when I was writing it. So it sort of sets in, like when I write, and then I find myself, I figure it out on the other side.
That's funny. You like have a seizure and then a song comes out. Like, all right.
In fact, one time I had my brain mapped, which is a very interesting process of having these like sensors put all over your scalp and having somebody read, like sort of feed you questions and you're responding to them and then they're reading the readout, on a computer of what your brain is doing. And at one point, there was a quiet space and the guy hadn't asked me a question and he said, "What did you just think about?" And I said, "I was just listening to music in my mind, like melodies that my mind was making." And he said, "It presented like you had a seizure." So it
Oh,
is.
wow.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I know.
We need to get House on this like now. Figure out what's happening, Dr. House, with your Vicodin and your cane,
I love a house reference. I haven't heard it.
Where's he? Where we need him?
right? Like I actually I've never watched House before and I just started watching it a couple weeks ago and I'm like, oh man, this is pretty freaking cool.
I've seen it here and there, and it is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like my wind down, like, okay, put on a thing of House. My wife's like, you can go to bed. Like, no, there's another episode coming on. I gotta watch.
Ribbon.
Can you get a cut?
I love it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, how far are you all on the next album?
Mastering notes.
Yeah, we just sent off an email today, and that could be it. But I mean, essentially, it's as a recorded product. It's mixed. It's
And the masters that exist right now are beautiful. We're just trying to we really like to nail down like the way that the songs flow into one another, like whatever that relationship is. And we like to keep the energy flowing as opposed to having like sort of big gaps where you like have time to think about anything. And I was just saying to Jerry the other day before we had made our notes that I was listening to this rap album to Redman's new record, Muddy Waters 2, TOO, which is a great record. Shout out to Redman. Um, and I was like, it's all about the way hip hop records are mastered because there's never a space to breathe. Like
Right.
even they give you those interludes and sort of transitional tracks between songs. I mean, the records are literally 30 tracks just because of all of the extra stuff, but they never give you time to stop. So the record just becomes like a brick of concept and sonic landscape. And I was like, that's what we have to tell. That's what we have to say when we give the notes. Like a hip hop record. It's
yeah,
not musically at all like a hip hop record, but you know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
energetic to work like that.
I like that that you focus so much on those transitions from one song to the next because you absolutely nailed it, right? Like when you're listening to an album, especially like some of those albums from like the 80s and 90s, you've got a couple of seconds between songs and you're like off in La La Land, like
yeah.
like
Yeah. And on certain records, it makes sense. Like my other project has a record coming out this year too. And for the most part, there's like a standard amount of space between songs because that record is more of like a sonic collage. So there are different approaches and different instrumentations coming in track for track. Whereas like in Friendship Commanders, it's always the two of us, so you can sort of play with keeping the energy at a more steady level than having it dip and come back up or disappear altogether.
hell yeah. Okay, well, I'm fucking super excited for the next album. Like what's it called?
We haven't announced it yet, but it is another four-letter word. All of our full-length albums are four-letter names. So it's Dave, Bill, Mass, and then this one follows suit. So it's we will announce it soon, but thank you for asking.
Yeah, I'm like trying to even think like they're not even doing it in alphabetical order. What is next? Opus.
I love
It's the fucking
That's what it's called now.
yes. Or Zach. It's gonna be Zach. That's what it is.
Yeah, we could never have named the record Steve because it's 5 letters.
Well, but what if we did ZAK?
Oh yeah, we do know. Zach is one of those weird
But
names.
that would be it's usually a 4-letter name.
We
So we picked
somehow
a
know like
3-letter.
28 Zachs, and all of them have different spelling.
Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, Z-A-C-H, Z-A-C-K,
Z-A-C-K, Z-A-K, Z-A-C.
yeah, Z-A-K-K, I think. I feel like we know a Zach with two Ks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of Zachs.
Yeah. Hey, Zachs, why do you guys have so many different spellings?
It's like Jeff's and Sean's.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sean spellings.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those always kill me.
Yeah.
I always my cousin Sean, I would text him and he'd be like, "That's not how I spell it." I'm like, "I've known you 40 years. I'm sorry, dude." Like, damn it.
Cousin's job to mess up your this
Yeah.
spell.
Yeah. Having a great day. Text with the wrong name. Like, you mother.
You can be like, dude, it was a phone autocorrect. You can get away with that now. It's not like you wrote it in pen in a letter.
Or like the old phones where you had to tap the, you were like 444 333, like shit.
Now there's autocorrect. You can just be like, dude, I don't know what's going on. My phone's
Yeah. Yeah.
teaching people how to lie.
So legalize Lex.
Can't wait. Can't wait. And also, we've never played Lexington.
Yeah.
Somehow in all the year, and we're like right down the road in Nashville. We're not that far.
Yeah, we're stoked. We played with Braun in Louisville. Played with Crop.
We
in
played with
Louisville.
Crop.
Last
Yeah,
year, Braun hit us
Hippie
up.
Death Cult.
Yeah.
Magbar?
Yeah,
No, Portal.
Oh, I love that place.
Yeah, it's great. We play there at least once a year these
Yeah,
days. I feel
and
like.
we met the Crop guys and hit it off with Braun, and Braun immediately was like, "Y'all are playing Legalize Lex next year." Like, great.
Yeah, he told me that night
So
in September of last year. He was like, "I'm putting you on the calendar."
What show was that?
Hippie Death Cult.
Oh, maybe we did meet because I was there.
Yeah, we might have met. That's what I'm saying. Like, you never know.
I was absolutely at that show.
Yeah, that was when we got added to Legalize. I think he messaged me on Facebook like the next day.
Yeah.
That like the day we would be playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Braun. We love you, dude.
Yeah.
Like the thing I like about Braun is he's so boisterous, and he's happy.
Yeah, he loves
Like,
really hard.
yeah.
He really is enthusiastic about the stuff that he's into, which I feel like is a welcome change from sort of cool guy BS. We all know too many cool guys. It's nice to meet somebody that gets like really stoked about things.
Fuck yeah. Especially legalized. He's hilarious talking to him about that. Like, oh my God, you're never gonna believe like who I got. Like, and I can't tell you, but oh my God, you can't believe it. And I'm like,
I love it.
uh, who who are you all looking forward to seeing play?
Oh man. Well, I've never seen Lo-Pan.
Yeah, and I've known about it, been a fan of them for a while.
Yeah.
We've actually even played next door to them, but weren't able to watch them in Boston years ago. So, yeah, excited to see them finally. And we love the rebreather guys, so it'll be great to see them again.
And have played with them.
Yeah.
But not in a few years. So it'll be good to see. Like, I know they've got new stuff, new music.
Yeah.
We've played with Horseburner, but
Yeah,
once.
we've been pals with them for a long time online, so
Yeah.
it'll be great to see them in their neck of the woods. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Should be a great night.
I think so.
Like offering of bands that are like friendly genre wise, meaning like, it all works together, but it's not like a brick of just the
Same thing.
Those
Yeah.
shows where you're like, oh my God, it's 12 stoner bands.
I know there are more that I know there are more that I want to see, but like as I'm asked that question, I blanked on who else is playing, and I need to look at the list again. But yeah, I'm just stoked to be there among everyone.
You do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, now
because we only saw them the one time.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
I'm looking for oh no, I thought I had the flyer pulled up, but I don't.
The flyer is ever changing.
The flyer is ever changing.
Yeah.
I feel like every time it gets posted,
I think you're right though. And one of the things that I like about Braun is that it when he puts it together, it's close enough where you're not like, oh my God, why is the bluegrass band playing the death metal show? You know what I mean?
We've also already played those shows before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good night.
Who else is there? I think you guys are there with
Cast. And so there's different stages.
Yep.
Sympathy Jar. So it starts with Sympathy Jar, then goes to Star Viper. This is really well produced.
Yeah.
Let's have these times like
back
really dive in. Storm Toker, Radiant.
y'all. Storm Toker is so good live.
I think the band I've never like I don't know anything about, which makes me excited to see them, is Blind Scryer.
Um,
Or where are they from?
Louisville.
Louisville. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, those dudes jam, and Blair has got he's got like just a set of pipes on him. You're like,
Great,
holy shit.
great.
Killer. Love to hear it.
Yeah. I think so. I'm not real familiar with Star Viper or
Right.
Sympathy Jar, but I I think every other band, the only bands I haven't seen that day are besides those two are Horseburner and Lo-Pan.
Oh, okay, great. Well, Horseburner are fantastic. We played with them in Pittsburgh on the Mass tour, right after the record came out, after having known Adam for, I mean,
Yeah, and
years.
it's been years of like comedy of errors of not being able to play together.
Yeah, like almost
Yeah,
playing together. But yeah, they're amazing live. And their new record is great. Um, and Rebreather are so fantastic. Love those guys. We have developed like a friendship and some community with a bunch of people up in Youngstown where Rebreather are from. So
we play there all the time.
yeah. I feel like for the last 6 years we've played there twice a year, which seems like a lot of Youngstown, Ohio.
Not enough.
Not
I
enough.
feel like from a music fan, I'm always like, man, I wish I could get this band to come through like once a quarter.
I know. I know. No, we love it up there. And I'm actually playing up there solo this year too on my solo tour. So that'll be fun. I've played there solo once before. Should be good.
Right on. So how does that work between, the solo and the friendship commanders?
Very carefully. And normally they happen in the same year, but this year I have a record coming out in the late spring, and I'll be touring in June and July on that. And then Jerry and I, we haven't even really nailed down the release date, but it's later in the year. Friendship Commanders tends to release albums in the fall for some reason.
Yeah,
That just is the
that's just
deal.
when we tour. So yeah,
Yeah.
it just you know, we tour together and then she goes out solo.
Yep. Yeah, I
And
play completely solo.
yeah, it's a great way of keeping the things very different. I feel like too
Yeah.
different identities.
Yeah.
Important.
But it's a lot of the same community, just because rock community is rock community.
Yeah.
So you end up just knowing the same people and playing the same venues and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you make a friend, doesn't matter what band you're in, they're gonna come and
Yeah,
support you, you know?
I think so. And people know I'm the writer in both projects for the most part too, which helps them sort of be interested in both, to a certain extent. But yeah, it should be a very full year is the answer. The
Yeah.
short answer to the question is it's going to be a very full year.
Good for you though. Like that's as a musician, that's what you want. You want a busy year, where you're like, okay,
You know,
no downtime.
the unspoken thing that happened was the pandemic was exhausting and we just kind of the staggered schedule that it put everything on, and we don't really want to do that ever
We
again.
don't like
I
that.
kind of just want to be putting out work all the time and
Yeah.
having the regular
Same.
work tour, new work tour, new work tours, keep moving.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do albums every year, I hear.
Every two, maybe.
Like every other.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this new record will come out this year. Mass came out in like late September of 23.
Yeah. We do also have very high standards for what a finished product is on a record too. So I don't know if that would work a record every year. Yeah.
No, it'd be like a factory, just kind of
Yeah.
putting it out.
I feel like you hear that in someone's work once they start doing it. It's
Uh,
samey. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't like
I,
to make a record twice.
yeah, well, I don't blame you. We have those bands and they're great,
Yeah.
you know. AC/DC, it's not just the same album, it's the same song
But the tempo is different
Sometimes the tempo.
sometimes.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've nailed it. They are great at what they do.
Yeah, they originated it and they have perfected it and they have every right to ride it out into the sunset of glory. Absolutely.
Yeah. Dude, they took that thing to the top of the world. Ain't no one touching them
Dude,
right now.
you shook me all night long at a night here in Nashville right after Mass came out actually. And my voice is pretty flexible and I have some range and some power. And when I tell you that like working up to that Brian Johnson vocal on that was like training for the Olympics. I mean, I was like, I wasn't sure I was going to do it.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean,
She nailed it.
props.
Yeah.
Props.
Yeah. But you know, like we know what they do it great. And it is, there's no denying it. I don't care if it is the same song 10 times on the album.
No.
They
Yeah.
literally nail it.
Yeah. It feels great. You're like, thank God this exists.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Again, for the 50th year in a row. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have news about the new Friendship Commanders record sooner than later, I'd say. But yeah, we're close. We're in mix or mastering notes territory, which is the very end,
Rock and roll.
And our mastering engineer has done all of our stuff. So we started working with Kurt Ballou as a mix engineer after the Albini record, so late 2019. So we recorded Hold On to Yourself here in Nashville, and then Kurt mixed it. And he mixed all that stuff through the pandemic. So we've now been working with him, whether in person or as a mix engineer, for 5.5 years. And everything that we've done with Kurt has been mastered by Brad Boatwright. So Brad knows us really well and knows our sort of like the energy that we're trying to create. He's great. He's amazing.
It's nice to have that familiarity with the project, because it's not, you don't go, oh man, we really didn't want that at all, like, oh, you get it.
Yeah. He's amazing. He also mastered my solo record. I think he is the engineer who has touched the most of my work of anybody I've ever worked with at this point. Yeah. I think he's mastered something like 52 songs I've written, which is a lot of songs.
That is a lot of songs. Holy shit.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, whatever. I've probably written 50 songs, but that's about the extent of it. And maybe like 25 have seen the light of day.
So you're not playing Legalize?
No.
Okay.
No, so I don't play anymore. I started playing when I was a kid, and I gotta think, probably 16 or 17 years ago, with my ex, we broke up, and my plan was I'm going to go back and get my equipment. And before I got back, all of my equipment was gone. And I said, well, if that's the cost to get rid of her, I'm okay with that. Moving on.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. That's like a separate column of grief.
Oh yeah.
Whole part of your life and your gear. Gear is like there's a spirituality with gear.
I mean, there's always a reason that you buy that certain piece, and I worked for years, and I had my Alpine white Les Paul custom with gold hardware and pearl inlays, and that was my baby. That was all I ever wanted, and I got it, and out out the door. And again, like, I'm in such a better spot now. Um, I probably needed to sever that connection to move on, like, psychologically.
Yeah.
Oh man,
well, someday you've got
eulogy for a guitar though.
Yeah, and someday you've got 25 songs to record.
Yeah.
No, so I don't even, I've got a bunch of equipment now, but the last time I probably picked up a guitar a year ago and played for like 30 minutes. I just don't have the drive to really do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I love talking to people like you, and I like going to shows.
Yeah,
Great.
that's so important too. Like that's how our culture all exists, and that we all go to shows and take interest in. I think the highest mark of humanity, in my opinion, like what I see in other people and what I hope to have, is curiosity in others. And I think that like being curious about music and musicians and going to shows is absolutely like exemplifying that. So Thank you for doing that.
Right, absolutely. And even aside from going to shows, like if we as humans, when someone was different, we came from a place of curiosity instead of judgment,
I know.
like we'd be in a whole different like I feel like we'd be in this like heaven, you know what I mean?
I know. And even not even judging, but like Jerry knows this about me. It makes me nuts when I talk to somebody and I say, like, oh, I have this sort of response to something, or I really like having sound on. And they just say over and over again, like, oh, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. And what I'm trying to say is, but I am. And I'm
Yeah,
sharing with you what someone else is like. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like just announcing that you're not like something is not curious. It's just marking what you're not.
yeah.
You're not really taking in what other people are. And I feel like that's I I aim to be more like that, like curious about why people have certain things that I might not have, and learn about that as opposed to shut down and be like, nope, not here.
I think it's really cool to learn about like people and how they react to situations or songs or genres of music because it's uh, my wife. I love my wife. I love her to death. We actually together 13 years yesterday. I'm like, yeah. So she is, for lack of a better term, she's a hippie.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah. And I am, I think at my core, I love anything heavy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. So she'll go to shows with me.
Yeah.
And she went to see Goat Horror with me one night. And
Great.
this was the she went because we've got some other friends that were playing with them. So we go and I'm like, hey, Goat Horse headline, and we're gonna go and watch. She's like, okay. So we like right up on the rail and we watch them play and we leave. And she goes, oh my God, they were so fucking good.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Like,
And great to be able to connect.
yeah.
Our next door neighbor and friend is a hippie who also comes out to hippie shows. She comes out to see us play. And whether or not it's what she listens to all the time, she still loves it when she's like out
Yeah.
in the middle of it at
Great.
shows. And she's
Great live music's great live music.
yeah, and she's a great person to have at a show.
Yeah.
Because she like immerses herself in what that culture is that night.
Yeah. Well, and it's, it's so much more than just like a style of music, like people come out to shows because it's a community. You feel a part of something and you don't feel like the weirdo or the outcast or whatever. Like we went with a buddy of mine to Planet Desert Rock Weekend in Vegas a few weeks ago.
Oh,
And it was both of our first times going. I think this was the fifth year for it. But to see, like, even when we walked in, like people came up like, hey, good to see you, right? People that we know just from the community, and to watch other people like big hugs, like, hey, I haven't seen you since blah blah blah. It's like,
yes.
fuck. That sense of community is what I think we as humans always strive for, and to, for us to find it in this community is uh, it's astounding. It's astounding to me.
Oh, I think finding a sense of belonging is life-saving. Truly. And I think for me it started super young. Like as soon as I started going to like hardcore shows, whatever, when I was like in middle school, I was like, oh yes. Yep. And while my taste has changed and the bands that I listen to and pay attention to are different or not across the board, but in some cases, it's still just like plugging into that wall of like knowing that you're one of many in that space and that you are like part of it in there. You're not, because I do feel like a weirdo almost everywhere else.
Yeah, me too. That was so my kids did too, and I'm always like, hey, come to the show with me. My daughter, when she turned, I think 9, we went to a show, and who was it? It was Max and Igor Cavalera
Yeah.
doing the Return to Roots tour.
Sure.
So we walk in and, she's just this little 9-year-old with blue hair. And literally the couple of local openers come running up to her like, you're the fucking coolest kid ever. And they're like giving her like CDs and signed drumsticks. And she's like, really?
Yes.
Like,
So
yeah. So,
Which is
now I'm like,
ages venues are so important. It's
yeah,
so important for that to be allowed. We've had 9-year-olds at our shows in the last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
We had one at our show in Tucson this past October. And I thought, like, oh, her dad likes our band and brought her out, kind of like what you're describing. And when I talked to him later in the night, he said, oh, she wanted to come. So I brought her. Like, she found us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he brought her out on a school night. It was like a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And she came out to the heavy show. So cool.
that's cool. Good dad. Good dad. Yeah. I love that because that's, at the end of the day, like I think not really pushing it onto our kids, but allowing them to like experience what they want to experience in a healthy way, I guess, is this is how they learn and how they really flourish and become comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, and whether they like the kind of music that we do or not is almost immaterial. It's just like opening the door to that kind of experience and that kind of belonging and that kind of community. And then they'll find their way. We all did.
Yeah. Yeah, she's embarrassed. Her first show was Justin Bieber.
Oh.
And I'm like, don't be embarrassed. She's like, why not? I'm like, mine was Michael Jackson.
Great. Incredible.
She's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, I love Michael Jackson. There is nothing wrong with liking who you like and what you like.
No. Then don't shut down that part of yourself that knows what you like. That's an important thing to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Ah, what a good conversation.
Yeah. So I'm so
Uh,
glad.
For sure. I think I'm really looking forward to Legalize this year. I think you guys are gonna jam. And it's so funny. I'm like, I feel like I saw you guys before, and until you said hippie death cult, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like
I think we played right before Hippie Death Call. I think Prop opened. There was even a fourth band. Oh no, there wasn't.
There may have been. We played Portal twice last year.
Yeah, we played once with Horrors and then once with Hippie Death Call.
Yeah, we've since recorded a record too, done a
I know.
2.5 week long tour. Everything's a
Our
big
brain is kind of
mess.
spaghetti. But yeah, we were there and
Yeah.
Prop was there and you were there. So maybe we met, but we're gonna do it for real this
we're
time.
gonna do it for real this time. We'll do photos so we have proof.
Taking photos. We're hugging. We're gonna have callbacks to this conversation. It's gonna be great.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. For all of you out there, go buy your legalized tickets. Friday night is $20, Saturday is $40, but if you buy the ticket pre-sale, you get both nights for $50. So it saves you $10 and you get a bunch of amazing bands. I've got to probably start adding a link somewhere in here.
Great. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. Buick, Jerry, thank you very much for your time tonight, coming and chatting. I have had such a good time chatting with you both.
Same, Tom. Thank you so much. You're the greatest. Thank you for having us and for reaching out. We'll see you in a month and a half.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You guys have a great night.
You
You
too,
too.
friend. Thank you.
Bye.